who needs a shoulder to cry on this morning probably is Rio Ferdinand. On Sunday has this. Rio nabs intruder in home raid terror. He held down a garden prowler, apparently, until police arrived. What a nightmare for him.
What a nightmare. And Kate Ferdinand is very heavily pregnant, so I can imagine that's quite distressing for the entire family. Yeah. The Observer has gone with something totally different. Tory anarchy breaks out as revolt looms on Brexit laws. That's about that Brexit bonfire that's meant to happen by the end of the year. Getting rid of 4,000 EU laws. Not going to happen now.
No.
Brexiteers aren't happy, are they?
No, they're not. The Sunday Telegraph looking at Labour's plans to let EU citizens vote in British elections.
Well, it's time.
Why?
Yeah, not sure about that one. Well, time to go through the rest of this Sunday's headlines. And joining us to do so is the editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater, and the author, Nikki Hodgson. Good morning to you both. Very, very good to see you. Do we have a papers?
We don't, but I think we'll look at this. It's Observer, is it?
I've got it here.
Yeah.
Nikki.
The Observer front page. So it's a story about what's going to happen with student loans, because the Tories have proposed some reforms. And it's not good news, basically, if you earn, I don't know, nothing but the top whack, because they're going to extend the loan repayment period by 10 years. So at the minute it's 30 years, it's going to go to 40 years.
Right.
That means if you earn around 30k, you're going to end up paying more back altogether and in interest for longer than if you make 70k.
Yeah.
So, it's always been the case with the loan. You don't want to keep it dragging on because you've still got interest to pay. But the reality is some people are only ever going to make 30k because they're in a profession that doesn't pay well. Teachers, nurses, some of the most important people in our society basically don't earn that much. And, the idea behind this reform is that the Tories want people to finish paying their loans because so many people kind of get to 30 years and have never paid it off. I'm still paying my student loan
It gets
off.
cancelled then,
It gets cancelled at 30 years, so I've got a while to go yet. But yeah, I haven't paid it back. So, but the point is that this is going to jeopardise, the state of the country again, because it's the people that we need the most that are going to be put in this position of not being able to afford them.
Well, it raises the question then, and it's a valid one, surely, to say, well, those people who are never going to earn more than about £30,000, or the equivalent, should they need to go to university anyway?
Well, the point is we still need nurses and teachers, don't we?
Well, yeah, but why do nurses need to go to university?
Well, they need training.
Well,
so
train on the job like they used to.
But can you? Well, I don't know if we can anymore because of the way the model works for how we kind of what skills we give nurses. Increasingly, because they're doing so much more of the labour that doctors used to do, they need to be better educated and better trained than they used to do maybe 20 years ago. And we're so short of nurses. Is there time to get people to learn on the job? You need them to go into something knowing what they're doing. Arguably, maybe university isn't the best solution to that, but we're still going to need to pay to train them, and we've still got a shortage of them. The problem with this is that, we could say, well, people go straight to work, and actually lots of people would like to do that, but that isn't the model we've got at the minute, so we'd have to kind of, change that over. The issue is that it's going to put off people who want to do these really valuable jobs. And it's going to put people off, from doing what they really want to do as well. That's going to lead to unhappiness. That's what happens when people do stuff that they don't really want to do, and they just do it for money.
Stupid situation where everyone, Labour started it, Tories carried it on, of saying we need to get 50% of people to university. Well, the result of that is more people are going, so they have to self-fund because the government can't pay for it like they used to. And everyone's in a load of debt, and having a degree counts for nout.
I know that idea of the graduate premium is just a myth.
Yeah.
Because if you try and funnel everyone down this route, and it's also the case that, it's kind of expanding the sorts of courses that are offered to the point where it's not necessarily going to help people in the job market. And a lot of people who will go through the university system and will often go back to the sort of job that they were doing, the Saturday job beforehand.
The problem, though, is always, when Rishi was first talking about this policy, he kind of, earmarked arts degrees, for example, as a waste of money, as a waste of time for most people that use them. I've got an English degree, and it was the best thing I ever did because it's given me all the skills to write, but I'm actually a writer, so it's like I actually use exactly what I learned to do my job. I mean, it worries me that he kind of, labels certain degrees as not worth it, because actually people can use it in all kinds of creative ways. If they use any kind of skill they got from the degree and they didn't have it before, well, maybe that's, maybe that's to the good. And I don't like the idea that he kind of pinpoints, certain degrees as not worth it, because it's like, if there was no literature, if there were no films, if there's no theatre, would we be a better society for it? Do you know what I mean? It's like you can't really start getting into, well, that's worth it and that's not, to me.
Yeah.
But I do understand with something that maybe, I take Tom's point about, sometimes somebody studies something and they never, ever go near that again. And maybe it's a very competitive industry, maybe like music, for example, which you see a lot of people doing kind of songwriting courses and stuff like that, which they can't use later.
Degree in music.
Well, that's the other thing, is all these things suddenly having to be a degree course when they don't necessarily need to be. Even with, it's like when young people ask, how do I get into journalism? Number one thing I say is, don't do a journalism BA. If you want to go and get your NCTJ kind of reporter qualification, go ahead and do that. But the thing is, these degrees are being sold as this is your ticket into this industry, whether it's music production, journalism, whatever it is. You do not need to go through that process. Go and get the experience. But the whole system is geared towards getting as many young people through university as possible, even if it's not actually.
And the university's making money. They're businesses.
Yeah. I think the whole system needs to be looked at with student loans, because I did an undergrad and a master's, and the interest on it is so high. I think it's something like 9% last time I checked. It just goes up every year. So I'm paying it monthly.
It's ridiculous.
Hundreds of pounds. And it never goes down. I think I'm now about 75k in debt.
75?
And it started at 50 or something. Yeah, it just goes up.
I just watch mine just keep doing that. It never goes down.
So you're just paying into the
and it's a lot.
void.
It's a lot of money. Like the student loans, one of the, there's 2 tiers of repayments, and one is at £300. £300 a month every month for 30 years.
National insurance, your
on
tax,
top of everything, it's a huge amount, and that's why Martin Lewis, the money man, is saying it's a graduate tax.
It is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, I got a grant.
Did
to
you?
go to university.
For goodness sake.
But we didn't have a lot of money, so we actually got. They gave me a grant, and then they paid for all. There's no fees, but the grant was for like accommodation and things.
So you have no student debt?
No.
Wow.
No, none. Came out with money in the bank. Well, I mean, I worked at a local radio station.
You worked.
Trent FM, good morning to you. But no, I came out with, I didn't have an overdraft or anything.
Yeah, see, it's changed a lot. It really has.
It's shocking.
And now, to add on to your point, where so many people go to university now, you need a master's degree in order to get a job that supposedly requires a specialism. So my sister did child psychology at uni. She's now had to do speech and language therapy on top of that to go into the job that she wants to do.
Yeah.
And similar to me, wanting to be a journalist, I did an English degree. I need to do a master's in broadcast journalism to do this job. Yeah, so you're just adding that extra layer to...
An extra cost.
An extra cost, an extra, years.
Crazy.
Debt.
Crazy.
To get these jobs, yeah.
And all this, and all you get after it all, Tom, is emails every time you get home from work. Which the Mail on Sunday is looking at.
Yes, so this is Keir Starmer's announcement that in the Future Manifesto there would be these kind of new workers' rights introduced, one of which being following something that they already have in France, which is essentially restrictions on how employers can kind of communicate with their staff outside of office hours, as well as a right to work from home. This is something which Rishi Sunak has been going at him over a lot of pieces, saying this is going to cripple business and so on. I think on the one hand, obviously, everyone will know that, particularly in kind of white-collar jobs, there is a bit of the problem with this kind of work-life balance. The fact that your office is kind of in your pocket at all times in the form of emails and messages and so on, that can become a problem. But obviously, these kinds of across-the-board rules are just not going to work. As many people pointed out, you couldn't run the Labour Party on this basis. You couldn't run GBNEWS on this basis.
No.
I'm sure we certainly couldn't run Spiked on this basis, just because of the fact that there are so many industries in which this doesn't really work. And whilst in a particular workplace, in a particular situation where you might have people again banding together to push back on any kind of particularly onerous expectations of employers, this kind of across-the-board thing doesn't make a lot of sense. And also, along with the work from home thing, it's interesting that the Labour Party talk a lot about workers' rights these days, but it's always white-collar workers' rights, essentially, the kind of people who are actually doing okay for themselves, working in pretty decent jobs, but because their work-life balance isn't quite so right, that's the most horrendous thing in the world. So it's an odd focus, I think, but it tells you a lot about who their base are.
I tell you what, Sakir, what you need to do, forget all of that. Don't ban emails, ban WhatsApp groups. Ban work WhatsApp groups.
Absolutely.
I mean, I will make you cups of tea for life. If anyone bans work WhatsApp groups, I've got it set on my thing now, so I cannot be forced to join. They can't add me to a group.
Excellent.
But then I get messages saying, I can't add you to this group. Then you sort of have to accept the invitation. I hate it. Hate it.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Oh dear. Right, Nikki, Tom,
no, we're out of time.
We're out of time, I believe. But let's keep all these stories, because I want to talk about all of them. And you're going to be back, aren't you, in the next hour?
We'll be back.
More fun then.
Well, maybe
as long
as it falls within your working hours. Otherwise,